I am still in the midst of my UFO challenge and I'm plugging away at finishing up all of my unfinished objects. But I do kind of have the itch to start something new, and today I kind of feel like sewing. I don't feel like sewing very much, and I did mention in my recent podcast that I don't consider starting a new sewing project, like casting on something new, because it doesn't take as long as knitting, and I don't normally have the urge to sew something, but I do today. You might have noticed from seeing my craft room that I kind of have a thing for strawberry motifs. So I'm going to try to start in on my summer strawberry dress. I showed in an older podcast episode that I had bought this cool strawberry fabric that I love from Joann Fabrics, and I bought a sewing pattern also. So I think I am going to try to get started on that strawberry sundress today, and we'll see how far we get. Okay, so all I've done is cut out the pattern and then cut out some plain cotton to use as kind of a mock-up. Maybe if it fits enough, I'll use it as the lining as well. But I've already got a couple takeaways. One, I shouldn't cut fabric on the floor in here anymore now that it's a carpet and not hardwood, because there's cat hair all over it, so I'm gonna have to wash this after I sew together the mock-up. Two, I should really invest in a rotary cutter. I have fabric shears. I wasn't using them on this because I knew I was going to be clipping the paper also when I did kind of the first round of cutouts, and I didn't want that to mix. But I think that would probably be easiest and best. So I've kind of been putting it off forever because I don't sew that much, but I think it's a good idea. And also, I kind of don't remember how to read sewing patterns. That's kind of always been my issue with sewing, is that I find reading the patterns difficult, and then I make crucial mistakes that are really hard to fix and get frustrated with a project and never finish it. So I think I'm going to have to invest a little more time today in examining and trying to understand this pattern before I move too far forward. Luckily, I also remembered I haven't pre-washed my strawberry fabric yet, which means that when I'm washing the mock-up that I make, just because of all the cat hair, I'm also going to pre-wash my strawberry fabric, and then since I have to take that time to do the laundry anyway, I can take a closer look at it. This panel, which is the center back panel, is shirred all the way across with elastic. I know I have a big spool of 1/4 inch elastic because I went through a kind of scrunchy phase a couple years ago, and I bought a huge one from like Amazon or something. And then of course during COVID, like during the lockdown in 2020, I was also using it to sew masks and stuff, but I cannot find it for the life of me. But I did find this bag. If you saw my thrift haul video, this is all of the elastic that came in that. So there are all sorts of widths of elastic, so I guess I'll just use this. Okay, so it didn't take me very long at all to realize that this uses a ton of elastic. So these are really wobbly. I'm learning, okay? I'm learning. I think I started to get the hang of it more and more with each one. However, I'm supposed to do so many rows, 29 pieces of elastic, and the one that I found yielded like 7. So I stopped halfway. I'm just gonna fold it. I think for the mock-up this will be good because it'll at least kind of scrunch it down to the expected size. Because I'm not going to use this amount of elastic. I'm probably going to have to end up ripping these out to salvage these for the final version anyway. So I'm just going to use this wonky bit as is as a stand-in my mock-up. Okay, so I went ahead and seamed it all together, and it was huge. And then I realized that all of these panels are supposed to be kind of bag-lined and turned inside out, which meant that I hadn't used the seam allowance on each panel meant for the lining stage. So I went back and I added another 1/4 inch inside of each of them, and it fits a lot better. Something I didn't realize about this dress was that I thought the buttons down the front were fake. It's calling for me to actually place and do buttonholes and everything. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do that. I'm really inexperienced And that makes me nervous. Like, I'm kind of really proud that I attempted this shirring today, which, by the way, again, it's a silly stand-in, so it's blank here, but since it's shirred, I might be able to get away with just doing fake buttons down the front, right? Because the elastic will still allow me to take it on and off, hopefully. I don't know, maybe I'll attempt to do the real buttons. I've never used a buttonhole or attachment, and that makes me really nervous. There's only 10 buttons. I guess I could hand sew the buttonholes, but that would take a long time. I'm not sure. I don't think I would get to that step today anyway. And I'm not going to do the mock-up of the skirt panels because I don't think that's necessary. This is the part that fits. The skirt is really loose and it comes out from the waist. It's not going to not fit. So I'm going to save those panels that I cut out of this muslin for the skirt lining, and I'll probably recut most of these, and then I've got to salvage the few strips of elastic that I did use in this because I need to reuse them in the next dress because I actually don't have as much elastic as I thought I did. But for now, I'm gonna pre-wash my strawberry fabric and take a break, and maybe I'll see you today, maybe it'll be another day. It's been a few days since I sewed this shirred panel for my strawberry sundress. I haven't done any work in the meantime, but I wanted to kind of recap what I did here before I work on the dress a little more today. So I sewed this shirred panel the other day. Certainly a learning curve. I've never done this before. I think it actually came out pretty well. It's super stretchy, like it's tight. I don't know if that's how tight it's supposed to be. It does work. Towards the end, I changed my bobbin and the tension got all screwed up. I tried a few times to fix it. I ripped out a few seams. I got frustrated. I just ran with it because it's going to be on the inside. This is super lazy crafting, and I know that. And I know that this isn't like good practice or anything. But the back, the last couple of seams are really, really awful. I don't know if you can see them. So that's going to be the inside of the dress, so it won't matter. This is the outside, just the center back panel. I also had a chance to think about it, and I'm definitely going to do real buttons. This is not going to be enough ease to get it on and off without real buttons, and that's what the pattern calls for. And I am not knowledgeable enough in this kind of thing to really make major alterations like that without understanding the ramifications of what will happen. So I'm going to do real buttons. I am probably not going to use a buttonholer attachment for my machine because I haven't done that before and it's too intimidating right now. Okay, so I made a little progress. I've sewn the lining and pressed all of these panels for the bodice. I'm still having trouble with tension on my sewing machine, and honestly, I'm such a novice sewer. I'm not sure how to fix it. I'm gonna have to fiddle with it a lot more, and I kind of don't want to get into the skirt seams today. These I was able to kind of jimmy with it as I was doing it and make sure the seams were stretched, but they're kind of too loose, even though I keep changing and testing the tension. I guess this is going to be a learning experience through and through, but for now I don't really want to do the long seams of the skirt because I'm hesitant that the tension is going to mess that up and I want to get that correct. But for now I'm just going to keep moving forward and trying to sew these bodice panels together. Alright, so I've encountered a couple more problems. I think I'm going to be done for today, but I just thought I would talk about where I ended up. So I've got the whole thing. I don't have the straps attached to the back yet because I wanted to make sure they were the right length. They are attached to the front. It's going to be too tight. I mean, if I squeeze it, it'll do, but I need enough overlap to do those buttons. It's going to be too tight. The elastic is so... I mean, it's got stretch, but it's like, it's too tight. I might have to just invent a little button placket and add it. The bottom seams are raw and open on all of these, so that'll make it easier if I do have to open up one side or the other to add a placket, or maybe even redo a whole panel, or both. Kind of don't want to think about ripping out and redoing anything today. This is the point where I usually get frustrated and leave a sewing project, walking away at a spot where I know I'm going to have to make difficult choices when I come back. I'm hoping that filming this will give me enough accountability to come back and finish it up in a timely manner. I do want to finish it, but right now I'm kind of overwhelmed. So I'm going to turn in for the day. I'm going to go feed my dogs and relax and do some knitting, do something relaxing that I'm confident in. And hopefully I'll be back to move forward on this one soon. I've had a couple days to cool off. I'm just gonna do the plackets. I'm gonna do a short placket on each side, maybe an inch and a half, open up just the seams on the front edge there to add it, and I think it will look fine, it'll go smoothly, and it will fix the problem. Okay, so I've got a couple pieces cut and ready to be the placket. There's no finishing done on them yet. They're just pressed into shape. And I thought about it for more than 2 seconds and realized that I had to take these panels all the way off so that I can turn them inside out to actually add the placket in. So backtracking a little bit, but a learning process as ever, and the project will be better for it in the end. All right, this is much better. It's not laying flat right now. I've got a couple pins in it, but it's definitely way better, and it fits even better when I pull the straps taut, as they will be when they're connected at the back. So I think our placket insertion was a success. Good morning. Welcome back to my extremely messy craft room. I'm not happy about the state of things in here, but I think one of the important steps to actually moving forward and getting this cleaned up is finishing my strawberry sundress. It's Saturday now. I started it last Sunday, so I worked on it teeny tiny bits in the evenings during the week after work, but I really do want to finish it up, and after this I have some other sewing projects that I'm eager to get to. I have a big one for myself and my husband that I'm gonna film soon. And then I also have to alter a dress for my mom. So right now I'm going to work on the strawberry dress, hopefully finish it today, or at least get really far along so I can put away some of this mess and kind of tidy up the craft room in general. Let's get going. I am a little worried that the placket I added to the bodice will make everything uneven so that the skirt and the skirt panels don't line up with the bodice panels. But if I have to, I can always kind of extend and add a placket to the skirt too. This pattern isn't particularly detailed. It doesn't hold your hand. It kind of has a chart that shows which pieces are sewn to which pieces, but it doesn't tell you what order really or how to do it. I kind of thought I would struggle with that in the beginning, but I've kind of been doing better than a normal pattern. I think maybe I'm intimidated by the wordiness in a regular pattern that has a lot of text and instructions. So I'm hoping it doesn't become too much of an issue, but I think I can just add a similar placket to the skirt panels if I need to, and I guess we'll see what happens. This is why I get so frustrated with sewing, and I always abandon sewing projects. It's a piece of machinery and I don't fully understand it. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an engineer, and I want to love sewing, and it always becomes just a frustrating mess. I don't think there's anything wrong with my machine, but there's something very wrong with my bobbin tension, and I've tried 10 times to fix it. You know, this is a project that should go relatively quickly, but because there's this gap in my knowledge about how the machine works and how to make it work when it's not working, I'm just stuck. These are a couple very simple seams that I should have been able to whip out by now, but I'm just in this loop of trying to fix the tension and not succeeding, and then having to rip out the seam and try again and again and again, and I'm just frustrated. I feel like I should have finished this dress by now, and I'm just at a standstill. Okay, so I'm having a problem, but it's not the exact problem I expected. So it's not too big. Actually, I remembered as I was doing it that one of the skirt panels is supposed to be gathered down. I think it's one of them. What if it's both? It's both. Never mind. Okay. Like I said, this pattern does not hold your hand. Half of the instructions are on the pattern pieces themselves, and then there's a very short direction sheet that's like basically one sheet of regular copy paper that has a couple graphics for what you do. So the quasi issue I'm having is the directions say that this side seam on the bodice should match up with this side seam on the skirt panels, and when I do that, I have just enough fabric to go across and get over to the other edge. No gathering needed. It's exactly the right amount. But then from this seam to the other edge, there's way too much, and I definitely have to gather that. But then I'm stuck with gathers on like a third of the skirt and not the whole thing. So I'm thinking the only way to fix it is to not have the seams line up, I guess, because I can't just gather part of the skirt, but I can't have the seams line up because then I don't have enough to gather over here. So I guess I'm gonna skip the seams, or maybe make that seam line up with a different seam to make myself feel better. I don't know. I'm too inexperienced for this. This is... It's fine. I'm learning so much. Okay, wrong again. I just spent a while pinning it, kind of trying to ease the entire waistline in, and then I was like holding it up to my body, and I realized that the lining would show on the front, and then I remembered I'm supposed to fold the one panel, this panel, over, and I didn't do that. So I don't know. I also kind of wanted this panel to be the front panel. So I don't know, but one or both of these skirt panels should have had a fold in the front anyway, so that would eat up a lot of the yardage that I've been trying to ease into the waistline. I didn't sew anything yet, it's just pinned, but I think I spoke too soon when I said that I was doing okay with a pattern that doesn't hold my hand. I need somebody to hold my hand. I'm too new at this. I'm making it work, and I think it's going to be a garment in the end. There's not going to be a lot of finesse, and I don't know how much more hair I'm willing to pull out over this. But I'm going to forge ahead, keep working on it today for a little while longer, and hopefully figure out at least this waist situation before I quit. Okay. So the pocket was on the wrong spot. I've ripped that out too. You can kind of see where the seam was in the wrong spot, and that's kind of going to bother me, but there's nothing I can do about it. So this, I feel like I'm backtracking more than making progress today. This is not my favorite experience. So I've sewn the bodice to the skirt. Such a mess. This is such a mess. This is so frustrating for me. I know I made a lot of changes to it, but this pattern was too difficult for me to follow and very frustrating overall. As it stands right now, the bust is too tight. The buttons are totally gonna gape. Maybe not. I don't know. The bust as it is too tight. The waist is a little too high and also huge. There's so much extra room at the waist when the bodice is supposed to be quite fitted. I mean, so I have to take it in a little bit. I'm trying to decide the best way to do so without interfering with the fullest part of the bust, because that part's already too tight. This project has been way more of a learning experience than I wanted it to be. Okay, I'm done for today. I'm leaving it there. The waist is too big. It bubbles at a weird spot because the seams don't line up like they're supposed to. I'm gonna have to work on that, but I think I'm too mentally exhausted now. That I did a lot of work today, and most of it was just fixing my own mistakes or trying to smooth over things that are not necessarily being smoothed over. So I'm at the end of my rope with sewing right now. I need to cool off. I'm not gonna have any time to sew tomorrow, so I'm gonna take a few days and knit and calm down. And I will see you when I'm in a better headspace to work on this particular nightmare. It's been a couple weeks. I don't want to say I knew this would happen, but I knew this was a possibility. And I'm overwhelmed and frustrated by sewing, like I always am. I've cooled down a lot. I've worked on a lot of other things. I have a lot of other things that I want to move forward and do, but this dress is holding me back. So I'm going to try it on again, see if it's possible to make any adjustments, make a decision about what to do. So the main problem that I'm struggling with is that there's all this extra material right here. It's this ruched panel, this shirred panel that I kind of did, but kind of didn't know what I was doing, and it's creating so much bulk, and I mean, you can see, that's the problem I don't know how to fix. It is time to finish this. This has drawn out so much. I know so much of this video has just been me whining about how much work it's been. It's taken so long that now I don't even have enough time to really do another practice project before I dive into my next big sewing project, which is nerve-wracking to me. All I have left is buttons and buttonholes. Never done buttonholes before. I know my machine is capable of it, but I've never tried it. In the beginning of this project, I'm sure in my introduction I was very ambitious and I said that I was going to just do them by hand rather than try to learn to do them on a machine. Now I'm thinking it might be faster even to just do them on the machine. Even with the learning curve, I'm hoping that'll be faster than sewing them by hand. This requires quite a few buttonholes, if I recall. I've got to double check, look at the pattern, but I need this to be done. I'm getting to the point where I resent the finished object and it's not even finished yet. So I'm going to try to get all the buttons and buttonholes done today, and then the dress will be done and I can move on to projects that I don't have as much animosity towards. Let's go. So on the picture, honestly, this pattern has like no instructions, which I'm sure I've mentioned. There's, on the picture, there are 5 buttons on the bodice and they're spaced more closely together, and then there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 buttons on the skirt farther apart. So I'm going to work on the placement of where my buttons should go, and then I'm going to do some practice runs on the sewing machine to see if I can actually do buttonholes. Got there, sort of. Every single one of these little buttonholes is its own unique train wreck. The automatic function was not working, it was getting stuck. After I did a bunch of them though, I did start to catch on to the rhythm of it and how it works. So I was able to go back and kind of correct some of the ones that didn't come out well, but I'm sure you can see they're extremely messy. Some of them are uneven, some of them are going over failed buttonholes. It's awful. Doesn't matter. This dress was never going to even remotely approach perfect. To me, it will feel so much better when it's done and over with and I can move on to other things, because I'm so exasperated overall that I don't care that the buttonholes are terrible. So I'm going to cut them open and sew some buttons on, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so I've been sitting on my couch sewing the buttons on. They look really cute on camera. Oh my gosh, they don't look as cute in person. I ran into a couple issues. Firstly, that this buttonhole was way too far back. It looked so silly. It's the first one on the skirt section, and it didn't line up with the bodice section, and it didn't line up with the skirt section. It was like a little outlier all on its own. So I did kind of cut the buttonhole more in one direction and add a little more tacking here to keep it farther to the right. This whole dress is just a series of sewing train wrecks, and I am far past the point where I care about how professional it looks. And in that spirit, I got to the end, whoops, and this side here, this edge was several inches past this edge. So I just folded it over and tacked it down by hand, kind of an angle. I'm ready to be done with this, and I kind of don't care how make do and mend it is. It's just, the whole thing is so homemade, but I'm learning. On the bright side, the buttonholes really don't look so bad because the buttons kind of cover them up for the most part. I mean, like, don't look too closely, but whatever. I guess let's see what it looks like. In the end, even though it was a very difficult process and I found the whole thing very frustrating, I am glad that I made this dress. It's a reminder of what I'm capable of when I'm tenacious and when I don't quit. And it's a reminder of how much more I can learn to do if I actually put the work in. In a way, I am looking forward to my upcoming sewing projects, even though I'm a little more skeptical now of my own abilities. I am excited to learn and to become better at sewing, and I'm hoping to bring you along with me. I hope that watching this video was not as painful as making it. If you did like it, let me know by liking, commenting, and subscribing. And I hope to be back soon with some more sewing content, hopefully a little less bitter next time. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and I'll see you next time.